Hello everyone, welcome to Frightful Whispers. I'm here to guide you into the shadows tonight. I know you're using this video to unwind and drift off to sleep. So, before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Where are you watching from? And what time is it for you? Now, get cozy, relax, and let the whispers of the night take over. I don't know how it all started. One moment, everything felt normal, the way it always had. But now, every time I glance at the mirror in my room, a shiver crawls up my spine. It wasn't always like this. The mirror was just a mirror. I didn't think much of it. Just an old heirloom passed down from my grandmother, framed in delicate gold, its glass still clear despite its age. A part of the room, nothing more. I guess, in a way, I've always been obsessed with the unknown. From a young age, I was the weird girl, the one always reading about ghosts and spirits, the one who spent too much time staring at abandoned buildings, wondering what secrets they held. I was fascinated, some would say obsessed, but I never imagined that my curiosity, my need to understand the supernatural, would lead me here, to this. It was a quiet night, the kind where the air feels thick, almost electric, as if the world is waiting for something to happen. The rain had started lightly at first, tapping softly against the window. But as I sat on my bed, reading, it grew heavier, more forceful. The kind of rain that makes the house feel smaller, more enclosed, like the walls are pressing in around you. I remember sitting cross-legged, my back propped against a pile of pillows, lost in my book about haunted houses. The words blurred in front of me, but I couldn't look away from the mirror across the room. It was always there, but tonight it felt different. My gaze kept returning to it, like a magnet pulling me in, and as I looked, I swear, the air around me grew colder, heavier. I adjusted the book in my lap, shifting on the bed, and that's when I noticed it. My reflection in the mirror didn't follow me exactly. I raised my hand to push a lock of hair behind my ear, and my reflection, it didn't move at the same time. There was a delay, a moment where it stayed still while I kept moving. My stomach flipped. I tried to brush it off, tried to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe I was just tired. But I couldn't ignore the strange sensation creeping up my spine. The reflection was watching me, not mimicking me like it always did, but studying me. I moved again, instinctively, to prove myself wrong. I straightened my posture, turning my head just slightly. It followed, yes, but it was still slow, like it was lingering a moment too long, waiting for something. And I don't know why, but I felt a shiver run through me. It wasn't right. I told myself it was just the storm, the flickering light from the desk lamp playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Something I couldn't explain. The night wore on, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, the reflection. I had to go check again. So I stood, walked toward the mirror, my heart drumming in my chest. I didn't want to look, but something in me compelled me to, and when I did, that's when it really hit me. My reflection wasn't there anymore. I could see my room, the familiar walls, my bed, my dresser, everything as it should be. But there was no me in the glass. No reflection of my body, no movement, just emptiness, like the glass had swallowed me whole. My breath caught. The air thickened. I turned away quickly, hoping it was some strange trick of the light. But as I moved, I noticed something. My shadow, on the floor, wasn't the same. It was stretched, elongated, twisting in ways it shouldn't have been. It looked wrong. My heart raced, and I turned around, unable to help myself, and that's when I saw it. The mirror was no longer empty. There, standing in the reflection, was something, or rather, someone, that wasn't me. It stood just behind the mirror's glass, like it was waiting, watching. I couldn't breathe. I blinked hard, telling myself I was imagining it. But no, it was there, the reflection. My reflection, only it wasn't. The figure in the glass smiled. A twisted, unnatural smile that spread across its face, pulling at the corners of its mouth, and I froze. My blood ran cold. That smile. It wasn't mine. And then, just as I was about to turn away, something whispered from the mirror, barely audible but clear enough to make my heart stop. "Come closer, I've been waiting." I don't know how, but I was suddenly compelled to walk forward. My feet moved on their own, like some invisible force was guiding me, pulling me closer to that mirror, that thing on the other side. I reached out, my fingers brushing against the cold glass. The moment my skin made contact with the surface, a wave of cold shot through my body, and everything around me seemed to distort. The world blurred. The air thickened, swirling like smoke around me until I wasn't in my room anymore. I was inside the mirror. The room was still the same, yet somehow wrong. The colors seemed more muted, everything twisted. The walls were bending, the furniture out of place, as if this was a reflection of my room, but not quite right. A distorted version, a nightmare version. And then, there it was, the reflection. But it wasn't just a reflection anymore, it was alive. It smiled at me, that same twisted smile, but this time, its eyes were cold, empty, like it was a hollow shell. And it didn't just smile at me, it stared at me with a sort of twisted recognition. "You're finally here," it said, its voice not quite mine, too flat, too cold. I couldn't move. My body felt frozen, my skin crawling with dread. I tried to speak, to scream, but no sound came out. The glass around me was solid, unyielding, trapping me. And the worst part? I knew, deep down, that it wasn't the mirror that had trapped me. It was the reflection that had taken my place. It was walking free now, out in the world I once knew. And I was trapped. Forever. The reflection wasn't just a part of me, it was me. And it was free. It started slow, like something sneaking up on me in the dead of night. At first, I thought I was just imagining things. Who wouldn't after everything that had happened? But the more I tried to shake it off, the more I found myself drawn back to that damn mirror. And the feeling, that unease, grew heavier. Like the air in the room was pressing against me, suffocating me each time I dared to look at it. I couldn't stop myself. Even when I wasn't trying to, my eyes would always find their way back to the glass. And every time, the feeling was the same. Something was watching me. It was subtle at first, just the slightest shift, but I could feel it. I wasn't alone in that room anymore. The reflection wasn't just reflecting me, it was waiting. It wasn't just a piece of furniture anymore. The mirror had become something alive. I could feel its presence in the room, the way the air shifted around it, the way it seemed to hold its breath whenever I walked past. One afternoon, when the storm had died down to just a faint hum in the distance, I found myself standing in front of it again. I had to. It was like a pull I couldn't ignore. I tried to tell myself it was just a fluke, that I was overthinking everything. But as I brushed my hair in front of the mirror, I felt it again. That cold, crawling sensation at the back of my neck. That same thing I couldn't shake. I raised my hand, just like I always did to fix my hair. The reflection mirrored me, at first, but then something stopped it. It moved a fraction of a second too slow. A slight pause. A delay that shouldn't have been there. My heart skipped in my chest as I stared at it, wondering if I was imagining it. I tried again. I raised my hand, and once more the reflection followed, but not at the same time. It hesitated. Just for a second, but long enough to make the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I moved my head just a little, and it did the same. But it was delayed again. It was almost like it was studying me. Like it wasn't mimicking me anymore. It was learning me. I wanted to look away, to escape the suffocating feeling creeping up on me. But my eyes wouldn't leave the glass. My reflection, it, wasn't just mimicking my actions anymore. It was looking at me, and it felt wrong. Like it was watching me, not just reflecting me. Suddenly, I felt a whisper of air, just a cool breath against my skin, like the world was holding its breath. Come closer. I froze. My stomach flipped. I looked away, trying to shake off the growing dread, but I couldn't. That voice, that whisper, had come from the mirror. It had come from me. I wanted to scream, I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't obey. My legs felt heavy. It was like the mirror had its grip on me, drawing me in with a force I couldn't fight. I turned to face it again, unable to stop myself, like I was being pulled in against my will. But this time, when I looked into the glass, something was wrong. The reflection didn't follow me. It stayed still. It didn't mirror my movements at all. And then it moved, but not like I did, not like a reflection should. The eyes, I don't know how to explain it, they were different. They weren't my eyes anymore. They were hollow, black, empty. The smile, God, the smile. It stretched unnaturally wide. It wasn't just a grin, it was wrong. It wasn't mine. It was something twisted, like something watching me from the other side. The reflection didn't just move anymore, it was alive. And that's when I realized. The air around me shifted. It wasn't the reflection anymore. It was something else. Something that had no place in the world I knew. I felt a shiver run down my spine. I tried to turn away, but my legs were rooted to the spot. I couldn't move. It was like I was paralyzed, caught in its gaze, caught in that smile. That thing wasn't just mimicking me, it was becoming me. And then, as if it had been waiting for me to realize the truth, it spoke. It's time. The words echoed in my mind, a dark, hollow echo that felt like it was coming from somewhere deep inside me. It's time. And that's when I saw it. When the full weight of what had been happening crashed down on me. The reflection in the mirror. No, it wasn't my reflection anymore. It wasn't me. It had become me. And I was no longer the one standing on the outside, looking in. I was the one trapped. It was stepping forward, moving closer to the glass, like it was stepping out of it. I wanted to reach out. I wanted to scream. I wanted to do something. But nothing happened. My hand passed through the glass like it wasn't even there. And then, it wasn't just in the mirror anymore. It was walking free. It was on the outside now, the one that wasn't supposed to be, the one that had taken my place. And I was the one trapped, behind the glass, helpless, staring out, powerless to stop what had already happened. It was free. And I was left in the dark, trapped, forever. I don't know how it happened, but something changed in me after that night. I thought I could forget about it, chalk it up to some weird dream or trick of the light. But the more I tried to ignore it, the more it seemed to call me. That damn mirror. It was like it had a grip on me, drawing me in, making me feel like I had no choice but to look. It was an ordinary evening when I found myself standing in front of it again. The kind of evening where the air feels thick, heavy, almost as if the house itself is waiting for something to happen. The storm had passed, but there was still this eerie, suffocating silence in the room. It felt like everything was holding its breath. I sat on my bed, but I couldn't focus. My eyes kept drifting toward the mirror. I told myself not to look. I told myself I had no reason to, that it was all in my head, that nothing would happen this time. But I couldn't stop myself. I stood up, slowly, my heart pounding a little harder than it should have, and walked toward it. At first, it was the same. My reflection, right there in the glass, mimicking me as I reached up to adjust my hair. But then, something wasn't right. My hand moved, and the reflection, it didn't move with me. Not immediately. There was a slight hesitation, a fraction of a second too slow. I thought maybe I was imagining it, but no, I was sure of it now. The reflection was delayed. It lagged behind, as though it was struggling to keep up with me. I froze, staring at it. I raised my hand again, more deliberately this time, pulling a lock of hair behind my ear. The reflection did the same, but it was slower. Much slower. Almost like it had to think about it. Like it had to process my movements before it could mimic them. I felt a cold chill sweep through me, seeping deep into my bones. I took another step back, my legs heavy, like they were stuck in mud. My breath quickened, my pulse hammering in my chest. My reflection wasn't following me anymore. It was watching me. I moved again, but this time my reflection didn't move at all. Not until I had already shifted my weight. It stood there, motionless, as if it was waiting for something, like it couldn't decide whether or not to mirror me. And when it did finally move, it was wrong. Too slow, too deliberate. I felt my stomach twist, a sharp pang of dread. I wasn't just seeing things, it was off. Something was wrong with the way the reflection moved. I looked at my reflection's eyes, they were different. No, not different. Empty. Hollow. Dead. It wasn't me. It was as if my own reflection wasn't even looking at me anymore. It wasn't following me. It was studying me, like it was waiting for some cue to do something. The eyes were cold, unfeeling. The smile was stretched too wide, too forced. I hadn't even realized my face was contorting like that. I took another step back, my legs trembling. The mirror felt closer now, pressing in on me. I could feel the coldness radiating from the glass, like it wasn't just a reflection anymore. It was something alive, watching, waiting. The next movement I made felt wrong, like I was no longer in control. I lifted my hand to touch the glass. A simple motion, and when my fingers grazed the surface, the reflection inched its hand forward. Slower, much slower, too slow. The glass felt colder than it had before, and the reflection, it wasn't mimicking me, it wasn't me anymore. It was learning, it was adapting. It was studying everything I did, every movement, every breath, every gesture, like it was trying to become me. My hand trembled as it pressed against the cold surface, and that's when it happened. The reflection's smile widened, twisting further, grotesque and mocking. It stretched unnaturally, its mouth pulled far wider than should have been possible. It wasn't just me anymore. It was something else, something darker, something that was slowly, subtly replacing me. I recoiled, stumbling back again, my breath coming in ragged gasps. My pulse was pounding in my ears now, and I felt a sickening realization settle over me. It wasn't copying me anymore. It wasn't just reflecting me, it was becoming me. The reflection's face twisted and changed, its smile more sinister than ever. And then it did something I wasn't ready for. It moved closer to the glass. My heart stopped. The reflection's eyes didn't blink, they just stayed fixed on me. No longer an echo of myself, but something else. Something other, trying to be me. It was like it had learned enough to move, to take over. I wasn't the one in control anymore. I stepped back again, my legs barely holding me up, but the reflection didn't stop. It was still moving toward me, still learning. My own face, my own smile, warped into something I didn't recognize. And then it happened. The worst realization hit me like a blow to the chest. It wasn't mimicking me anymore. It was waiting for me to move, to shift, to become it. And when I finally realized that, when it hit me, that was when I knew. It wasn't just the reflection anymore. It was replacing me. And I was starting to feel like I was the one who wasn't real. I wish I could say I wasn't expecting it. I wish I could say I saw it coming, but deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before the mirror, the reflection, would take me. Even as I stood there, my heart pounding in my chest, paralyzed by fear, I couldn't look away from it. I didn't have the strength to move. The reflection, it, had already begun to distort everything. The room seemed to tremble, its edges warping in a way that wasn't possible. It was as if the mirror had become a gateway, a crack between two worlds, and no matter how much I fought against it, I could feel myself being pulled toward it. I never should have touched the glass, but I did. And once I did, once my fingers brushed against its surface, I felt it. The cold, suffocating sensation that wrapped around me, pulling me in. I wanted to scream, I wanted to fight, but my body betrayed me. I couldn't move. My feet were rooted to the spot, my arms frozen, my heart thudding painfully in my chest. The walls around me seemed to close in, bending and shifting like they were made of rubber. I could feel the glass drawing me in like a magnetic force, and I was helpless to stop it. Then, just like that, the room around me dissolved. I felt myself falling. No, not falling, but shifting. The air felt thicker, colder, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and settles there. I gasped for air, but none came. I couldn't breathe. When I opened my eyes, I didn't recognize where I was. The room looked like mine, but it wasn't. It was twisted, warped. The bed was in the wrong corner. The dresser had moved places, and the walls, they weren't straight. They curved inward, as though the very structure of the room had bent under some invisible pressure. The shadows stretched in ways they shouldn't, the edges of the room folding in on themselves like the whole world was folding at the seams. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. Everything felt so wrong, like I had stepped into a nightmare. My hands shook violently as I reached out, touching the walls, trying to ground myself, but they felt cold. So cold, not just physically, but unnaturally cold. And then, the worst realization hit me. I wasn't in my room anymore, not in the world I knew. I was inside the mirror. I stumbled backward, my chest tight with panic. I was trapped in this distorted, nightmarish version of my own reality. The walls, the ceiling, even the air, it was all wrong. The space around me was too close, too heavy. Every breath felt like I was drowning, each one heavier than the last. I could see the doorway, the mirror where I had come through, but it was no longer the same. It was just an empty frame now, like a forgotten relic, hollow and cold. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat, pounding, racing. There was no way out. I turned, desperate for something familiar, but then I saw it. It was standing in the corner of the room, just like I had been moments before. But it wasn't me, not anymore. It was the reflection, the thing that had taken my place. It stood there, silent, its eyes locked onto mine, unmoving. I couldn't look away. The smile on its face was still stretched, still too wide, but it wasn't the smile I knew. It was wrong. It was twisted, contorted into something grotesque, something mocking. The longer I looked at it, the more I could see it wasn't me. It was something else. And then I understood. The reflection wasn't just copying me anymore. It wasn't just mimicking me. It had become me. And I was here, trapped in this nightmare world, unable to escape. My legs shook, and I tried to step back, but the world shifted again, like the room itself was closing in around me, pressing in on all sides. The walls grew closer, the shadows lengthened, and I felt suffocated, overwhelmed, as if I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. And the reflection, it didn't stop moving. It took a step forward, slowly, deliberately, its eyes fixed on me the entire time, its smile still stretched unnaturally wide. It wasn't mimicking me anymore. No, it was becoming me. I wanted to scream, I wanted to fight, but nothing came out. I was trapped in this distorted nightmare version of my room. I was suffocating in the cold, oppressive air, and all I could do was watch as it moved toward me. With every step it took, the room seemed to shift, to bend around me. The ground felt like it was crumbling beneath my feet. The walls leaned in closer, the shadows pressing against me like the world itself was trying to swallow me whole. I reached out, as if trying to escape, but the reflection was there, always there, closer and closer. I could feel its presence now, wrapping around me, suffocating me. And the worst part? The worst part was the realization that it was no longer just copying me. It was me now. It was wearing my face, my expression, my body, like a mask. And when it spoke, it wasn't my voice. It was cold, hollow, empty. "Welcome," it whispered. "I've been waiting for you." The words froze me to the core. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but stand there as the reflection, the thing that had taken my place, stepped closer and closer. And in that moment I understood. I wasn't in control anymore. It wasn't just the mirror world that was trapping me. It was the reflection. And I was no longer the one on the outside. I was the one who was trapped. I don't know when I realized it. Maybe it was when the room started to bend, or maybe it was when the air turned ice cold. Maybe it was when I finally understood that the reflection, no, the thing, had become me, and I was the one who was lost, trapped. Everything had shifted, but it happened so gradually that I didn't notice at first. The room, my room, had changed. It wasn't right. The walls, the ceiling, even the floor, they were all wrong. The shadows stretched in unnatural ways, curling around the corners of the room like fingers reaching for me, pulling at me. I backed away, heart pounding in my chest, trying to find a way out, but there was no escape. The more I tried to move, the more the room seemed to shrink around me. It felt like the very walls were closing in, suffocating me. I could hear my breath, shallow and desperate, the cold creeping into my lungs. And then I saw it. The thing standing in the corner, the reflection. But it wasn't the same. It wasn't me. It had my face, yes, my eyes, my expression. But it was wrong. The smile was twisted, the eyes hollow. The smile that spread across its face wasn't one of joy or warmth. It was a mockery, an imitation that made my stomach churn. It stood still, watching me with those empty eyes, and for a long moment neither of us moved. The silence between us was suffocating. I felt my legs shake beneath me, my chest tightening with fear. It was as if the reflection, it, was studying me, waiting for the right moment to make its move, and then, slowly, it took a step forward. I gasped, stumbling back, my heart racing. I couldn't look away from it, from that thing wearing my face, moving toward me with slow, deliberate steps. It was coming closer, and with every step it took, the air grew colder, the shadows darker, the room more distorted. I wanted to scream, I wanted to fight, to run, but my body wouldn't obey, my limbs were paralyzed, frozen in place. The reflection, it, was still coming toward me, its hollow eyes fixed on mine. It wasn't just mimicking my movements anymore, it was becoming me. Every little twitch, every shift in posture, it learned from me. It was no longer copying, it was replacing. And then the worst part, the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I was the one in the mirror now. I could feel it. I could feel myself fading, my very existence slipping away, like sand running through an hourglass. I was becoming part of the glass, a reflection, a shadow. I reached out, my hand shaking, desperate to touch something, anything. The cold glass beneath my fingers was unyielding, and the harder I pressed, the more I felt myself being pulled into it. It was like I was being swallowed whole by the mirror, consumed by the very thing that had once just reflected me. The reflection, no, it wasn't a reflection anymore, was standing so close now. I could almost feel its breath on my face, cold and sharp, like it was living, breathing, real. It leaned forward, its smile never faltering, and then it spoke. Its voice wasn't mine, but it was close enough to make my skin crawl. Goodbye. I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. It was all happening so fast. The thing that had taken my place turned, its eyes never leaving mine, and walked away. It walked out of the mirror, out into the world I had once known, and I was left behind, frozen, trapped. I watched, powerless, as the thing that wasn't me, no, it was more than me now, took another step, and then another, moving freely through the world. It smiled again, but this time it was a victory. It had won, it was real, and I was the reflection. I reached out once more, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't break free. I was trapped behind the glass, staring out at the world I had lost. It was like being in a dream I couldn't wake up from, a nightmare that was all too real. And in the silence of that twisted world, I realized what had happened. It wasn't just the mirror that had changed, it was me. I was the one who had been replaced, and it was the one who was free. I never thought it would come to this. I always imagined, somewhere in the back of my mind, that I would find a way out, an escape, that I would wake up from this nightmare. But this is the truth I have to face now. I'm not in the world I used to know anymore. I'm not in my world. The air around me is thick, suffocating, as if I'm trapped under a glass dome, unable to breathe, unable to move, unable to escape. The worst part is that I can still see it. I can still see the world I used to live in, the one I took for granted. It's there, just beyond the mirror. I see people moving about their lives, the sun rising and setting, the wind rustling through the trees. But it's all so far away. It's like I'm watching a dream, a life that no longer belongs to me. I can feel the ache in my chest, a sharp, hollow ache that fills me every time I look through the glass. I can see myself, well, I used to see myself, but now it's just a faint, fading memory. The thing that has replaced me, the reflection that wore my face, is out there in that world. It is the one walking freely now. It smiles, it speaks, it lives. I can only watch. I can only stare through the glass, unable to touch, unable to be anything more than an echo of what I once was. I try to scream, to call out, but no sound comes, not anymore. My mouth opens, my lungs fill with air, but the scream stays trapped inside me, like a word that can never leave my throat. No one hears me, no one sees me. I'm invisible, a whisper, a shadow in a world that doesn't acknowledge me. The room I'm trapped in, the reflection, is all I have now. It's everything I am, it's my prison. I can see the outlines of the world I once belonged to, moving, shifting, but I can't touch it. I can't feel it. And it's that cruel truth that keeps clawing at me, tearing at my soul. I'm not real anymore. The world I left behind is moving on without me. The thing that took my place is out there, laughing, living, breathing, like nothing ever happened. And me? I'm left here, trapped, in a space where time doesn't exist, where the air is thick with silence and I am nothing but a fading memory. It doesn't even look back. I don't know how long it's been. Time doesn't mean anything here. It could have been minutes or hours or years. It doesn't matter, because everything is still. Everything is silent, frozen in this glass cage I can't escape. I've tried, believe me, I've tried to break free, to reach out. But the glass is cold, unyielding. There's no crack, no hole to slip through. It's a prison I'll never escape. The reflection. It is real. It's breathing, living, walking, speaking in the world I used to live in. And I'm just here. A ghost. Watching. Waiting. The thing that replaced me doesn't even notice. It doesn't need to. It's too busy living the life that used to be mine. The smile on its face, the one that mirrors mine, spreads wider as it walks away, further and further into the world that's still real for it. And me, I'm stuck here, I'm trapped, forever. I don't know how much longer I can stand it. The silence is deafening, the emptiness overwhelming, and no matter how hard I try to scream, to move, to fight, it's all in vain, because I'm not real anymore. The thing that took my place is out there, and I am nothing but a reflection, trapped behind glass, waiting for a world that's never going to notice me again. And the worst part? I will never be seen. Not again. Not by anyone who matters. I am nothing. The reflection is free, and I am trapped. Forever. Thank you for venturing into the shadows with me here at Frightful Whispers. Remember, the darkness holds secrets, but also whispers truths to those who dare to listen. If tonight's tale sent shivers down your spine, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. It helps keep the fire of fright alive. Rest easy, but keep one eye open, for the night is never truly still. Until we meet again, stay vigilant, stay curious, and let the whispers guide you.